Hi guys, here I'm going to show you how to import data from the web into Microsoft Excel. And I'm going to give you a couple different examples that allow me to show you all the steps you have to go through in order to bring that data into Excel. And it'll highlight the benefits and some of the limitations of doing this so you can evaluate if it's right for your situation. Before we start, check the video description and click the link to TeachExcel so you can download the files for the tutorial and follow along. And make sure to subscribe and accept notifications so you can see all the new tutorials. For this tutorial, I want to show you guys how to import data that updates regularly. So I'm going to use stock market data for all of the examples. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to show you the data. Let's open up a web browser. And we're going to get all the data from Yahoo Finance. So finance.yahoo.com. And when you get here, let's go for S&P 500. Keep it nice and simple. And down here, go to historical data. So this is a great example for importing the data. And we have all of the historical data here. So we want to bring all of this into Microsoft Excel and then have it update for us. So let's go back to Excel. Go to a blank worksheet, or actually it doesn't matter if you're in a later version of Excel. So Data tab from Web, or just go to Get Data from Other Sources from Web. And let's actually go back to the browser and make sure you copy the URL, and we're going to paste it in here. So copy the URL up here, the entire thing. If it wants to copy for me, there we go. Copy that, back to Excel, paste the URL in there. We're going to leave it on basic for this tutorial, hit OK. It's going to take a moment. Excel is going to the website and it's going to do a bunch of stuff. Yep. So I already went to this website, but the first time that you go to it, it's going to ask you how you want to connect to it. Just select Anonymous. This is a public web page, no issues. Select Anonymous and then hit OK. Should be just fine. And what you're going to see once it loads everything up is over here, the web page, the URL is going to look like a little folder, and you're going to have tables down here. Now, I'll explain throughout the tutorial what the tables mean, how you can locate them on the web page, figure out what's going to be a table, and so on. But for now, what you want to do is just click through the tables to see which contains the data that you want to pull into Excel. So we click the first one, and it looks kind of weird. What is this? Element, HTML, table, null. Basically, that means there's no data here for us. Let's click the next table. Okay, we got a little tiny table here. It's not going to have titles for the columns in this one, but we can see it's the previous close, open volume, so that's for the S&P 500. Don't want that. Don't want this. But table 2 has got exactly what we want. Date, open, high, low, close, adjusted close, and so on. We can look through the data to make sure it is what we want. We can go ahead and click load to have it pop into the spreadsheet, or click edit to go to the Power Query Editor, which is going to allow you to do all sorts of cool stuff that I talked about in another tutorial, where you can change the data, edit it, augment it, remove columns, do all sorts of cool stuff. So if you don't want all of this data here, we could, let's say, go ahead and, what would you want to maybe take out? Volume. Let's just say you want to take that out. Right click, remove. Okay. Everything, let's say, looks good. Let's go ahead and change the name over here. I don't like table 2, so I'm going to type S and P, historical data. Go ahead and then click close and load. Excel is going to do its magic, may take a little time, and it's going to load the data in there. So you can see we've got date, open, high, low, close, adjusted, close, but no volume. So now we've imported the data from the website. We've got it all nice and neat right here. You've got your little query over here. We've got it on a new worksheet, and look how nice and neatly formatted it is. Now, if you want to update it, refresh it, make sure you've got the most recent data, just go to Query. So make sure you click in here in the data, then go to Query, then go to Refresh, and it's going to update the data. Or if you want, this is kind of cool, you can have it so it's going to automatically update. Since this is historical data, it's not going to update every minute or so, but you could go over here to the Queries and Connections window, right click, go down here, it's just off screen right now, but it's called Properties. And here you can check Enable Background Refresh. You can choose how often you want to refresh it. That'll work better for the next example. Or you can, this might be good for this one, refresh data when opening the file. Note that it'll make opening the file a little bit slower, but for historical data like this, kind of cool. You don't have to worry about refreshing it on your own. So I will leave it all like it is now, but that's pretty cool. And if you don't see the Queries and Connections pane over here, so you close it, open it later, can't find it, just select in here. Actually, you don't have to select in there. Go to the Data tab, and then go to Queries and Connections, and it'll open right up. Now notice how it has 100 rows over here, and here is our data. Now let's go back to the web page and see what it looks like there. So here's the web page. This is the table of data that it got right here. And so it's got 100 rows in it. And when it updates for the historical data, it is only still going to have that 100 rows. So Microsoft Excel, what it does is it goes to this website here. It finds this table, it pulls in this data, and then it's going to take that data and update this here. It is not going to add a new row and keep all of the data that was previously there. It's simply going to mirror that data, exactly what is on the web page. If your data is never going to refresh, if it's never going to change, never going to update, there's really no point in importing it like this and having a query and choosing how you want the data formatted. Just a waste of time. Go to the website, copy paste it, fix it however you want, and then you're done. Now let's move on to the second example. This is really going to show you, or it's going to bring out the limitations of importing data from the web like this. So let's go back to the browser. Let's say this time we do not want historical data. Let's go to the summary page. There's all sorts of stuff here. You've got this data here that's kind of helpful. Previous close, open, volume. You got a little chart up there, but then you have a bunch of crap down here you don't want. And then you have some news articles. Maybe you want to pull those in and you think, okay, why not? It looks so nice and neat right here. What if I could just have it in Excel and have the links right there? Just make my life a little easier without too much effort. Well, let us copy this URL and see what we can import. So go to our blank sheet, data from web. Okay, leave it on basic. Paste it in there, okie dokie. Remember, if you haven't been to the web page before, a little window is going to pop up asking you if you want to proceed anonymously or enter some other information. Just choose anonymous for these simple web pages. Okay, so here we go. Once again, URL of the folder, and we've got three tables. Document, which is going to come in with basically nothing. Table 0. Okay, so that we saw in the last URL as well. Previous close, open a volume for the S&P 500. And table 1. But that's it. So where's all the other stuff? Well, now let's take a closer look at this window here. Up here we have table view, the default view, and we have web view. Let's take a look at web view. I'm going to make this a little smaller and expand this. So you can see up at the top here, there we go. It says table highlighting is disabled because this page uses Internet Explorer's compatibility mode. Then we've got an error down here, and the web page looks a bit different than it did previously. So basically, what Excel does, what Microsoft does for us here is they give us some sort of crappy browser, I don't know, like Internet Explorer 6, in order to look through the web pages to figure out what data you want. And it's very limiting. Look, I can't choose the data up here. I can choose almost nothing. In fact, here you don't even see the little yellow knobs, but that doesn't matter. The point is we have two tables of data over here that we can select. That's from right here, this one and this one, and none of the other stuff is selectable because it's not in a table format. I will show you more specifically what that means towards the end of the tutorial. But if you think about it, Excel is millions of cells, millions of little rectangles, millions of little tables. So it wants its data that it imports here using this very simple method to already be in a table format. So it needs to use a table tag with HTML. Now, I'll cover that in a moment. But the point is, it's very limiting. I can't even get this very simple data up here. I want to get this guy in. Come on, just come into Excel. Nope. I can only do table 1 and table 0. Okay, well that's not very helpful. There are way more complex ways to get data from websites that will allow you to get whatever you want over here, and I will definitely show you that in other tutorials, especially the premium tutorials and the premium course for this, but it's way beyond this tutorial. This is a simple web import, and this one shows you the limitations. But one cool thing that we can at least do here is we don't have to import the tables individually. We can go up here and check select multiple items, and go ahead and select table 0, and table 1. Then we can hit edit to go into our Power Query Editor, and we see table 0, table 1. Do whatever you want here. You can see the S&P historical data query as well, the one that we just imported at the start of the tutorial. I'm not going to change anything with these guys right here, so let's go to close and load, and you can see it's getting data at the moment. So here is one of them. Here is the other one. Maybe one thing you want to do here, I'm not going to cover this too much because it can take a lot of time, but I'll show you a quick way to change this. So let's say we don't want column 1 and column 2 up here. It's kind of ugly. So click anywhere in here, including up here. Go to Design, uncheck Header Row. Those guys are gone. Now we could just put whatever you want, S&P data. And down here you can refresh your data. So go to Query, Refresh, or if it's not visible, you can go to Data and Refresh. Notice the S&P data will stay there. However, if we went up here and just put S&P or whatever, once you import this, so you can also go to the Data tab to refresh. Instead of Refresh All, I'm just going to refresh this page. And now when I do that, S&P will disappear. But you may have noticed that the volume changed. So that's the cool thing. The data is still linked. It's going to update. And this time, maybe I wanted to update a lot more often. So let's go back to where we were in the first example. Make sure you have the Queries and Connections pane open. Data tab, Queries and Connections. Click the correct table. I'm going to skip renaming it for now. Properties. Enable background refresh, and you could do refresh every 1 minute if you wanted to. If you do it with a huge table, a huge connection, it'll really slow down Excel. If it's small like this, it's not going to. And now this table, and we'll do it with this one as well, will update every minute. So it's not going to be the freshest data, but pretty much every time that you pause to look at Microsoft Excel, the data will be updated. Now, also take note that this data is updated from Yahoo's website, or whatever website you get it from. So if that data is 15 minutes delayed, and this updates every minute, the data could be delayed by 16 minutes or even more. So just take note about that. But I like using the stock market data to show this feature because it works really well because the data updates, it changes, and it's really, really cool, especially with the historical data up here. Because now I have the last 100 entries for the historical data, and it updates for me automatically. No more copy pasting, no more export to Excel, import my CSV, just right here. Nice, neat, and easy. Now that's it for how to do a basic, easy Excel web data import. However, I'm now going to go back to Yahoo Finance and show you the under the hood stuff, the HTML for the web page, and show you what Excel can and can't bring in. It's kind of interesting. If you don't want to learn it, you don't have to. You can stop the tutorial. But let's go back to the web page now. Here, Yahoo Finance is the perfect example for this because most of its website doesn't work well for this. However, some of it does. And Microsoft's website, when they show you how to import data from the web, of course, they use a web page that has so many tables with so much helpful information, you just think, oh my gosh, it's going to solve all my problems. But it's not. It's not. We aren't all going to be getting static data from Wikipedia that will never update and use a web import for it. Okay. So Excel imports table data and it finds it using what's called a table tag in HTML. I mentioned it earlier in the tutorial briefly. So let's go back to the historical data because it's a little bit easier to figure that out conceptually because this data here looks like a table. And table formatting was the old way that websites used to structure all of their data. So this over here would be a table, this would be a table, everything would be table. So it was much easier to import all the data 10 or 15 years ago. But now with modern web design and making it so that pages can change based on screen sizes and a million other things, tables aren't used so often. So there's only a little bit of data on this web page right here that is actually in a table. And what we can do is right-click the web page. You could go to View Page Source, but if you're in Chrome or if you're in Firefox, go to Inspect. And what this is going to do, let's make this guy smaller. This is going to open up this window that lets you see under the hood of the website. So this right here on the left is what your website looks like before your browser changes it and makes it so it's visually appealing and readable. And what I'm going to do is make it a little smaller over here. And the cool thing is if you hover over elements, you can see that the web page, it's going to highlight what the element is. So let's go down to historical data over here. I'm going to right click over that and then hit inspect and it should go to that section of the code. Yep. And if we go up, you can see table right here, the table tag. And that's what it looks like. And when I hover over this, you can see on the left the entire table, all of the historical data, including the column headings, are highlighted. So it's nice, neat, perfectly structured table data that is very easy for Excel to read and understand. But now let's see, how many tables do we have here? Well, we can hit Control F and we can type the opening tag, which is the less than sign, and just start to type table, T-A-B-L-E. I'm not going to explain too much about how HTML works, but the point is, if you do this, you can see what data in the web page has a table, which will kind of tell you what data you could import into Excel. Now, if you just want a quick import, this is way too much effort for that, way too much work. Don't bother with that. Copy paste it, get it done with. But this gives you an idea of how it works under the hood and what Excel can and can't get. So all this other data where it says div, that is what's going to separate most of the sections of modern web pages. So when I go up here more, hover over a div, and you're going to see that it highlights different sections of the website. So Excel can't pull those in, and in my opinion, that's kind of BS. Because it seems like they haven't updated this import from web guy in years, and their stupid website just shows you how to get it from Wikipedia, and that's a load of BS because I don't think most people are going to be doing web queries from Wikipedia. Now that that's said and done, you know that most of the data you're not going to be able to pull in from a web page using this technique. However, in certain cases where you have highly structured data like this in a table, you are going to be able to import it and it can work really well and do wonderful things for Excel. Now, rule of thumb, if it looks like a table and it has tons of repeated data, it could very well be a table. If you're not certain and you don't want to look in Excel, just right click, go to inspect, and then look for a table tag somewhere like that. But to sum up, if you don't want to learn anything about HTML, don't worry about it. Go to the website that you want to get data from, copy the URL, paste it into Excel's import from web, and see what data you can get. Just don't get your hopes up too high for any snazzy looking data. Most likely that's not going to be able to come in. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you found it helpful. I hope you liked the tutorial. If it was helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. and make sure to subscribe and accept notifications so you can see all the new tutorials.